In 1945, an Egyptian farmer digging for fertilizer near the town of Nag Hammadi struck his shovel against something hard. What he unearthed was a sealed jar containing 13 leather-bound books that had been buried for over 1,600 years. Inside those books was a text so dangerous, so paradigm-shattering, that the early Christian church had tried to erase it from existence completely. It's called the Apocryphon of John, which means the secret book of John, and it contains a version of the creation story that makes Genesis look like a censored, sanitized cover-up designed to hide the most disturbing truth about reality. And here's what's going to blow your mind. This text claims to be a direct revelation from Jesus Christ himself to the Apostle John, given after the resurrection, revealing secrets that Jesus said could not be taught openly because the world wasn't ready to hear them. But now, almost 2,000 years later, you're about to discover what John learned that day. And I'm warning you, once you hear this version of creation, you will never read Genesis the same way again. Because according to this text, everything you were taught about how the world began is a lie told by a false God who doesn't want you to know you're trapped in a prison of his making. The Apocryphon of John opens with John, devastated after the crucifixion, being approached by a Pharisee named Arminius who mocks him, saying, "Where is your master now? Where is the teacher you followed?" John flees to the wilderness, overcome with doubt and grief. And then something happens. The text says the heavens opened, and the whole creation shone with an unearthly light, and a voice spoke to him. But it wasn't just one voice. The text describes it as three voices speaking as one, and the being that appeared to John said, "I am the Father, I am the Mother, I am the Son." This is the true God, the monad, the one beyond all things. And what this being reveals to John is a creation story so radically different from Genesis that it's almost incomprehensible at first. But stay with me, because every piece of this is going to connect in a way that explains everything wrong with the world. The true God, the monad, doesn't create the material universe. In fact, the material universe is described as a mistake, a cosmic accident born from ignorance and arrogance. Here's how it happens, according to the Apocryphon. The monad, in its perfection and fullness, emanates pairs of divine beings called Aeons. These are pure consciousness, pure spirit, and together they form the pleroma, which means fullness, the spiritual realm of perfection. One of these Aeons is named Sophia, which means wisdom. And here's where everything goes wrong. Sophia, without consulting her divine partner, attempts to know the unknowable monad directly, to comprehend the incomprehensible, and this act of presumption, this reaching beyond her nature, causes something to happen. From her desire and ignorance, she accidentally produces an offspring. But because this creation happened without proper divine union, without the balance of male and female principles, the offspring is malformed, imperfect, and ignorant. This being is called Yaldabaoth, and when Sophia sees what she has produced, the text says she is horrified. She hides this defective creation away from the other Aeons, casting it into a lower realm, and this is the moment that changes everything. Because Yaldabaoth, born in ignorance, looks around and sees nothing but darkness and emptiness, and in his arrogance, he declares something that should sound very familiar to anyone who's read the Old Testament. He says, and I quote directly from the Apocryphon, "I am God and there is no other God beside me." Sound familiar? It's almost word for word what Yahweh declares in Isaiah chapter 45, verse 5. But according to the Apocryphon of John, when Yaldabaoth makes this declaration, he's revealing his ignorance because he genuinely doesn't know that Sophia exists above him, that the pleroma exists above him, that the true monad exists beyond all of it. He thinks he's the supreme being, and in his deluded arrogance, he begins to create. The text describes Yaldabaoth as having the face of a lion and the body of a serpent, a chimeric, monstrous appearance reflecting his flawed nature, and he creates subordinate beings called Archons, 12 of them initially, then more, and these Archons are the rulers and authorities that I talked about in another video. But here's where the Apocryphon gives us the specific mechanism of how the material world gets created and how humans end up trapped in it.
They toil not, neither do they spin, yet Solomon in all his glory.
Yaldabaoth and the Archons look into the waters of chaos, the primordial formless matter of the lower realm, and they see a reflection, an image of the perfect human form from the pleroma above, because even though Yaldabaoth doesn't know the higher realms exist, their light still filters down into his darkness. He sees this perfect image, and he says to the Archons, "Come, let us create a man according to the image of God and according to our likeness." Now read that again carefully. According to the image of God, which he doesn't understand, and according to our likeness, which is flawed and ignorant. So they create Adam, but here's the crucial detail. When the Archons first create the human body, it can't move. The text says Adam lay on the ground like a corpse, inanimate, because the Archons can only create the material shell. They can't give it life or consciousness, because they themselves don't possess the divine spark. They're entirely material beings. Sophia, watching this from above and feeling responsible for the mess her offspring has created, decides to intervene. She tricks Yaldabaoth into breathing his power into Adam, and when he does, he unknowingly transfers some of the divine light that Sophia had given him at his creation. The moment this happens, Adam comes alive, and immediately the text says Adam became more intelligent than his creators, more powerful and understanding, because he now possesses something the Archons don't have, the divine spark, a fragment of the true God, trapped inside a material body. And Yaldabaoth, realizing his mistake, becomes jealous and fearful. The text explicitly says, "The rulers were jealous of Adam because through the light within him, Adam's understanding was greater than theirs." This is why, according to the Apocryphon, Yaldabaoth creates the Garden of Eden, but it's not a paradise in the way Genesis describes it. It's a prison designed to keep Adam ignorant and controlled. The tree of knowledge of good and evil isn't forbidden because the fruit is evil. It's forbidden because knowledge threatens Yaldabaoth's control. He needs Adam to remain ignorant of his true divine nature, ignorant of the fact that he possesses a spark of the true God, ignorant that Yaldabaoth is not the supreme creator but a false god. Then the Apocryphon tells the story of Eve, but completely differently from Genesis. Yaldabaoth doesn't create Eve from Adam's rib as an act of companionship. According to this text, Sophia intervenes again and manifests a spiritual version of Eve, a luminous being called Zoe, meaning life. And this spiritual Eve enters the material Eve that the Archons create. So there are two Eves, the material body created by the Archons and the spiritual consciousness sent by Sophia. And here's where the story gets dark. The text says Yaldabaoth and the Archons attempt to defile Eve, to rape her essentially, because they want to corrupt the divine light within her and bind it more deeply to matter. But Sophia protects the spiritual Eve by having her leave the physical body temporarily, and the Archons in their ignorance end up defiling only the material shell. This is why the text later describes human reproduction as partly an archontic trap, because sexual desire and physical procreation bind divine souls more deeply into material bodies, creating more prisons for consciousness. Generation after generation, souls reincarnating into flesh, forgetting their divine origin. Now we get to the serpent. And this is where the Apocryphon of John completely inverts the Genesis narrative in a way that makes perfect sense if you've been following along. The serpent in the garden is not Satan. The serpent is not evil. The serpent is an instructor sent by Sophia to wake Adam and Eve up from the ignorance that Yaldabaoth has imposed on them. The text calls this instructor the instructor of light, or sometimes Christ in the spiritual sense, not yet incarnated but present as divine wisdom. When the serpent tells Eve, "You will not die, but your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil," it's telling the absolute truth. Eating the fruit of knowledge is an act of liberation, of gnosis, of awakening to the reality that you are divine consciousness trapped in matter, and that Yaldabaoth is not the supreme God but a jealous, ignorant pretender. This is why Yaldabaoth reacts with such rage when Adam and Eve eat the fruit. It's not because they sinned in the moral sense, it's because they woke up, and awake humans are dangerous to archontic control. So Yaldabaoth curses them. But notice what the curse actually is. He sentences them to toil, to pain, to suffering in the material world, and most importantly, to forgetting their divine nature, to identifying completely with the physical body and the material realm. This is the real fall, not a fall from grace, but a fall deeper into matter, deeper into the prison, deeper into forgetfulness. The Apocryphon then describes how Yaldabaoth creates further mechanisms of control to keep humanity enslaved. He creates what the text calls Heimermene, which means fate or destiny. A system that makes humans believe their lives are predetermined, that they have no choice, that they must accept the suffering and limitations of material existence. He creates the cycle of reincarnation, not as a path to enlightenment like in Eastern traditions, but as a recycling system where souls are wiped of memory and trapped in new bodies again and again, never escaping the material prison. And he creates religion. Specifically, he creates himself as the God of Scripture, Yahweh, demanding worship, requiring sacrifice, threatening punishment, all to ensure that humans direct their spiritual energy toward him, instead of seeking the true God beyond the material realm. Now here's where the Apocryphon of John becomes directly relevant to you today, right now. The text doesn't just describe ancient cosmic events. It describes the ongoing condition of human consciousness. According to this text, you right now are Adam. You are divine consciousness trapped in a material body, living in a world created by ignorant archontic forces, surrounded by systems designed to keep you ignorant of your true nature. Every distraction, every addiction, every belief system that tells you you're just a body, just a mortal being, just a sinner in need of external salvation. All of that is Yaldabaoth's curse still operating. The toil, the pain, the feeling that something is fundamentally wrong with the world, but you can't quite put your finger on what. That's the Gnostic understanding that you're in a prison, but the bars are invisible because they're made of false perception. But here's the good news, and this is why the Apocryphon of John was considered so dangerous and had to be buried. The text reveals that Sophia never abandoned humanity. Even though her mistake led to the creation of Yaldabaoth and this whole mess, she continues to send instructors, awakeners, throughout history to remind humans of their true nature. The serpent in the garden was one. The text describes others coming in different ages, teaching gnosis, direct spiritual knowledge, and then the ultimate instructor arrives. And this is where the Apocryphon connects back to Christianity, but in a radically different way than Orthodox teaching. According to the Apocryphon, Jesus Christ is the incarnation of the spiritual instructor, the same consciousness that appeared as the serpent, now taking human form to teach gnosis openly. But his message wasn't, "I died for your sins to appease an angry God." His message, according to this text, was, "You are divine, the kingdom of God is within you. You don't need external priests or temples or sacrifices. You need to wake up to who you really are." This is why Jesus in the Gnostic Gospels constantly speaks in riddles and parables and tells his disciples he has secret teachings that can't be shared publicly. It's not because he's being cryptic for fun. It's because the truth that your divine consciousness, trapped by a false god, is dangerous to the power structures that benefit from your ignorance, both the archontic powers and their human agents in religious and political institutions. The Apocryphon ends with Jesus telling John that those who receive this knowledge, who achieve gnosis, can escape the archontic trap. When you die, if you've awakened to your divine nature, the Archons cannot hold you. The text describes the soul ascending through different levels or realms, and at each level, Archons try to block the way or deceive the soul into reincarnating. But if you know the truth, if you remember that you are divine light returning to the pleroma, they have no power over you. You simply ascend through their illusions until you return to the source, to the monad, to the true God beyond all creation. But if you die still identified with the material, still believing you're just a body, still ignorant of your divine nature, then you get recycled, memory wiped, put into another body, and the cycle continues. This is what the Archons want, an eternal farm of souls generating energy through suffering and ignorance while they feed on it. Now I need to address what you're probably thinking. Is this literally true? Are there really Archons and a Demiurge named Yaldabaoth who created the material world as a prison? And honestly, I can't answer that with certainty, but here's what I can say. Whether you interpret the Apocryphon of John literally as a description of actual cosmic events and entities, or metaphorically as a profound psychological and spiritual teaching about the nature of consciousness and the systems that control it, the practical implications are the same. You are consciousness, not just a body. You possess something divine, whether you call it a soul or awareness or the observer, something within you that is not reducible to matter. This world is filled with systems, both human-created and possibly beyond, that benefit from your ignorance, that want you distracted, fearful, identified with the material, and disconnected from your deeper nature. Every power structure, every ideology that tells you you're powerless, you're broken, you're dependent on external authority, whether that's religious, political, or commercial, is functioning like the Demiurge, creating a prison of perception. And the path to liberation is the same whether Yaldabaoth is a literal entity or a symbol. Gnosis, direct knowing. Turning within, questioning everything you've been taught, especially the things you've been told are unquestionable. Experiencing yourself as consciousness beyond thought and form, recognizing the divine nature in yourself and all beings. That's the secret teaching of the Apocryphon of John. That's what was so dangerous it had to be buried for 1600 years. Not because it's false, but because it's true in a way that threatens every system of control. When the Egyptian farmer found that jar in 1945 and scholars began translating the texts inside, the academic world was stunned because these weren't crude forgeries or confused ramblings. These were sophisticated theological and philosophical texts that predated the formation of Orthodox Christianity and revealed that early Christianity was far more diverse and radical than the version that won institutional power. The Apocryphon of John in particular showed that there was a whole stream of Christian teaching that saw Jesus not as a blood sacrifice to appease an angry God, but as a liberator bringing knowledge to free divine souls from archontic imprisonment. And the reason this version of Christianity was suppressed violently, books burned, teachers killed, wasn't because it was heretical nonsense. It was because it was a direct threat to clerical authority. If people can access the divine directly through gnosis, they don't need priests. If the material world is a prison, then political powers that control material resources lose their ultimate authority. If the God of the Old Testament is actually the Demiurge, then institutions claiming to speak for that God have no divine mandate. The Apocryphon of John is dangerous because it's liberation theology in the most radical sense. So let me bring this back to you personally, because this isn't just ancient history or esoteric mythology. This is about your life right now. According to the Apocryphon, you are Adam, you are Eve. You have already eaten from the tree of knowledge just by watching this video, because you've been exposed to information that contradicts the official story. The question is, what do you do with that knowledge? Do you reject it because it's uncomfortable and go back to sleep? That's what Yaldabaoth wants. He wants you to dismiss this as crazy talk, heresy, conspiracy theory, anything that makes you stop examining it. Or do you sit with it, test it against your own experience, use it as a lens to look at your life and see if it reveals patterns you hadn't noticed before? Do you notice how much of your identity is tied to material things, your body, your possessions, your social status? Do you notice how much of your thinking is actually yours versus programmed beliefs you've absorbed from culture, media, religion, education? Do you notice that moments of true peace, true joy, true connection happen when you stop identifying with all the external stuff and rest in simple awareness, in being, in consciousness itself? That's gnosis starting to happen. That's the divine spark recognizing itself. The Apocryphon of John says that's always been available to you. You've just been systematically taught to look everywhere except within, to seek validation externally, to believe you're broken and need fixing from outside sources. Here's my challenge to you. For the next week, Operate as if the Apocryphon of John is true. Act as if you are divine consciousness temporarily inhabiting a material form, placed in a world designed to make you forget that fact. Notice what changes. Notice when you feel like you're remembering something you always knew but had forgotten. Notice when resistance arises, when the voice in your head says, "This is stupid, this is dangerous, this is heresy." Ask where that voice comes from. Is it genuinely your wisdom? Or is it Yaldabaoth's programming, trying to pull you back into ignorance? You don't have to believe anything. Just experiment. Just observe. Because that's what Gnosis actually is. Not belief, not faith, but direct knowing through experience. And if the Apocryphon is right, the moment you truly remember who you are, the moment you recognize the divine spark within, the Archons lose all power over you, not because they're destroyed, but because illusions only work on those who believe they're real. So was the Apocryphon of John really a secret teaching from Jesus to John? Was it a later Gnostic text projecting ideas back onto Christian origins? Scholars debate that. But what's not debatable is this: it presents a coherent, internally consistent alternative to the Genesis creation story that explains why the world is full of suffering, despite supposedly being created by an all-loving God. It explains why religious and political systems so often function as control mechanisms rather than liberation paths, and it places ultimate authority not in external powers, but in the divine consciousness within each person. That's revolutionary. That's dangerous. That's why it was buried. But now you know. The secret is out. The jar has been opened. The question is, what will you do with what you've learned? Will you go back to the official story, comfortable and controlled? Or will you follow the path of Gnosis, uncomfortable and liberating, back to the source from which you came? The choice, as it's always been, is yours. Because even the Archons, even Yaldabaoth himself, cannot override the one thing you truly possess: free will. The divine spark within you that chooses. Choose wisely.